Hello and welcome to a special edition of Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. Today I shall be making over two vehicles. The first one is this Fiat Abarth. It's a 1/53rd scale model and it's in the 1/75 series, produced between 1982 and 1955. This one is the Alitalia version, which was made in 1984 to 1985. I'm also going to be doing over this Matchbox number 66 E2, which is a Group C racer. The BSAF is the sponsor in this one. It's a 1/55 scale model, produced in 1984 to 1996. So what am I going to do with these two models? Well, I thought I would have a little bit of fun today, and that is why this makeover is called the Scalextric Looney Tunes Matchbox Custom, and I think you're going to enjoy it. First up, let's have a look at these models. This Fiat here, as I said before, is a Fiat Abarth. I should have put a little bit more research into this because I'm not too sure what that means. It's obviously a rally car and it's sponsored by Alitalia. It's got some nice details on this model considering it's a rather later version of the Matchboxes. The underside is plastic, which is a little bit disappointing, and you can see that it was made in Macau. So I did a little bit of research because I'm often seeing models made in Macau, the same as this Matchbox number 66. It's a region of the People's Republic of China. It has a population of 650,000 people and is officially the most densely populated region of the world. So how's that for a bit of useless information? Now, looking at this Group C racer, you can see there's a fair bit of detail in it, especially on the base. Nice plastic detailing there of reinforcement of the chassis, I guess, and a mid-mounted engine. The base is held on with 3 rivets, which seems a little bit of overkill, but nonetheless I'm going to be pulling these apart and paint stripping them and doing a special modification. And what is that modification? Well, I bought this little Scalextric set, Scalextrics, and this is the Looney Tunes version. And I thought I'd have a bit of fun. We're in lockdown. My grandson lives with me. His name is Connor. And I thought I'd buy this set and we'd race these Looney Tunes Scalextric models together. As you can see, there's 2 that come with the kit. There's a Bugs Bunny version and a Daffy Duck version. Now, I'm going to pull these apart, and the idea is I'm going to convert them into a Matchbox racing set. So to begin with, I'm going to remove the bases. Now, they only have 1 screw on the underside, so I am guessing that's how you pull them apart. So let's give it a go. As it turns out, I was wrong. The screw holds these little brushes, I guess you'd call, onto the model to provide power to the electric motor. So now is a mystery. How is this held in place? Then I noticed there's a couple of tabs near the rear wheels. And it looks like if you just prise those outboard, the top bodywork will just detach from the chassis. So let's give it a go, this flat-bladed screwdriver. Wow, I wish all Matchbox models were this easy to pull apart. Look at that. So here we have a bog standard base chassis, which encompasses a gearbox at the rear, an electric motor in the centre, and a couple of resistors and bits and pieces at the front. So these brushes just simply went into that hole there on the upper body. So to put this back together, I'm going to have to either find a nut and a bolt to put this piece back together, just to hold it, because I can't put it back in there, can I? Or something, or a suitable alternative. So anyway, I nip out to the shed and I get my nut collection. And I'm sure there's some little nuts in here that will do the job. But out of all these hundreds of nuts in my small nut collection, I could not find one that was suitable for this sized screw. I know the screw has a very coarse thread on it and is not suited for nuts. But nonetheless, I thought I would find one. Anyway, I end up having to resort to these radio controlled aircraft parts that I had, because I used to be into that for a short period of time. And I'm thinking if I can cut this, I think this is a control surface control lever. If if I can cut the end off of it like that, there's a nice little hole and a square piece there that actually can or will be used as a retention device for this coarse threaded screw. So at least I can put the power supply part of this model back on and then start to move on. So this was a simple little fix-it. Some of you may not agree with it, but it seems to work. That's on there, back together, quite tight. And I know if I stick this on the Scalextric's racing track, it's going to work. So I've done that on both of the bases, and now I've got these Matchbox models, and I picked them specifically because, to my eye, they will fit perfectly onto the Scalextric's bases. So that was one, now this is the other. There's a close-up to show you the comparison. I went through maybe 50 models before I found these two that would do. So I was very happy to find them. So now I'm going to take the bases off of these, and then I'm going to have to somehow modify them to make them work. First up, there's only one rivet on the Fiat, so that's pretty quick and simple. And as usual, just like a normal makeover, I prise the base off using a flat bladed screwdriver. It is a bit tight, but I'm not too bothered because I'm not intending to reuse the base. I'm going to chuck the interior away because that's going to be filled with the electric motor and gearbox. And I'm just, again, giving it a bit of a look and thinking, is this going to work? And I think I might have a winner here, but time will tell. Now for the Group C Racer, and surprisingly it's got 3 rivets, which really is overkill. I'm sure you'll agree. It's a plastic base. They could have just flaming glued it on. Anyway, that was a bit awkward because the rear ends there jammed inside the rear bumper section. It was a bit fiddly getting it out. The wheels just fell out. I'm going to keep those for later. Interestingly, the headlight and windscreen is one piece and is held in with a rivet. Here's a close-up of the base. I might actually have to reuse this to make the Scalextric's electrified motorized base fit. There's a nice piece of spring steel for the suspension on this model. I'm going to keep that. And I'm also going to keep this interior. It's an unusual one. It's got a tiny baby seat next to an adult seat. Don't know what the story is there. And like I said, these wheels don't usually use super fast wheels, but who knows, they might come in handy. Why throw them away if I don't need to? So I'm going to keep those for, who knows, a future video. Again, this is the test fit. Both the bases on the original Scalextric's cars are the same dimensions, exactly the same bases. It's just the Matchbox ones are slightly different, the bodies. I'm going to have to make them work. So I don't know what I've let myself in for quite at this stage, but I just feel sure that it will work. At the end of the day, I'm sure I will find a solution. I'm using that shallow cut drill to drill out the rivet for the windscreen as per normal. It's a bit tight to get out because those headlights are an interference fit at the front there. Never seen anything like this before. So kind of unique, I guess. The headlight and windscreen assembly all in one. Now I'm going to strip these models, the die-cast models, of their paint so I can customize them to my own requirements. Now this is a Marty's Matchbox makeover, so I'm going to do them in a Marty's Matchbox racing team sort of colour, just for a bit of fun. I don't often deviate from the original models, But today I'm having some fun and just letting myself go, doing what feels good. But here's the first mistake. I poured paint stripper on this plastic spoiler on the back here, and I start to panic, so I instantly rush into the bathroom and wash it off with some water, and now I am using that flat bladed screwdriver just to pry that off the model. Thankfully the plastic did not react, so I dodged the bullet there. So now back onto schedule, back into the paint stripping. I just slap it on, pour some in the disposable food container and slap it on with a paintbrush. Make sure I cover all the areas. The decals and the paint just fall off these models. It's a great product, the Polystripper paint stripper. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, I'm just saying it as it is. I love the stuff. And this is where part of the pleasure from this hobby is stripping the paint. Now after I've done that, I wash them in some hot soapy water, and it's a nice sunny day today, so I thought I'd sit them outside to air dry for a change. Whilst they're drying, Julie's made me a snack for lunch. These are, what are they again? Arancinis, I think she said. They're rice, chicken and mushroom in breadcrumbs. And they're quite nice with some sweet chili sauce. After that I am reinvigorated and I go outside and bring these parts in, and they are perfectly dry and ready to be undercoated with the standard Tamiya fine grey primer. So far so good. I'm feeling very optimistic about this makeover today, and I'm quite excited as it's something that I think no one has ever done before. Well, they may have done it, but they certainly haven't made a video of it. So with the undercoating done, it's now time to look at some of the details on these models. There's a slight bit of damage on this one. However, I'll ignore it and move on. It's not that significant that it's noticeable to the human eye. Some nice details here, vents and a bonnet scoop. Obviously this was a high performance engine and need to guzzle gas, but at the same time had to breathe air. A number plate on the back there that I don't recognise. I don't think it's British. It doesn't really look Australian. Who knows? There's a funny feature on the back there. Sides. And there is a badge and I can't read it. Unfortunately it's cast, but I cannot make out the letters of the badge. I'm sure some of you will know what it's supposed to represent. This is now the Group C racer. Very limited detail on this model. I don't know what those are, little tiny vents or something at the front. Very basic cockpit detail, no door handles or hinges. Maybe a fuel filler cap there, some vents for the mid-mounted engine, and some rudimentary representations of tail lights, who knows. There's this funny sort of shape on the top there, maybe that's an air intake of some description. It's not particularly good, this casting, very basic, but it is what it is, and I shall try and trick it up a little bit and make it look good. So for the number 66, I'm going to use that white Tamiya paint that I've got left, and I need a light colour for the Fiat. I'm going to go the yellow. Nice details on the front headlights there, and I'm going to have to cut this original base that I was going to throw away. I've now realised this is harder than I thought. To put the Scalextric's base onto the model, I'm going to have to remove some of the original chassis, highlighted in red there, and attach it to the Scalextric's chassis to try and fit this thing together. When I started this project, I figured I would come across obstacles during the makeover, and this is the first one. So I'm just winging it, basically. I'm doing it by eye and thinking, where do I go from here? Got to rub some of it down there, wear some of it out there. There we go. I thought that was for the front, it's for the back. I used some emery paper on my tabletop there to rub down the edge of this part that I've just cut off to make it smooth and straight. I'll place it back into the original model and then try and mate it to the Scalextrics. I hate that word. Can I stop saying Scalextrics because it doesn't roll off the tongue? Anyway, I'm looking at this and there may be some interference with the wheels, or there may be not. I'm thinking I might have to, worst case scenario, enlarge the wheel arches on the upper body, but I might be able to get away with it because the wheels actually look narrower than the width of the body, and I think there's some clearance there. And I won't know till it's finished. So I'm going to join these two parts here together with some glue, and I'm just using a dental toothpick here to roughen up the edges of both parts so that when I put the glue in there, it's got something to grip and bond these two parts together so they don't separate when this thing's on the track racing. I do try some of this Tamiya masking tape to make a neat join when I run the glue in there, but it doesn't really work that well. The masking tape is not particularly sticky. Obviously it's made for painting and they don't want it too sticky because it will probably pull off the paint that it's on top of. Anyway, I thought I'd give it a go because I've never done this before, so I'm just trying to work out my own method of doing it. For this model, I'm using this 2-part epoxy resin, Araldite. You mix up equal amounts of the hardener plus the resin. They need to be thoroughly mixed, and this is supposed to dry in 15 minutes. So I just dollop this on here on the seam of the two adjoining parts, and the theory is to let it go off slightly but not 100% and then peel the masking tape off. So I've got a nice sort of ridge of glue there that looks neat and almost professional welding, if you will, of the two parts together. Nothing ever works out as you want it to. Like I said, I'm making this up as I go along, and I do end up peeling the tape off, but it doesn't look as good as I wanted it to. This windscreen that is out of the rally car, the Fiat car, has been melted and pushed in at the front. I don't know how that would have happened. It's been totally abused, and there's lumps on the inside and indentations on the outside. I want to reuse it because this is going to conceal the motor mechanism inside the body. So what I've decided to do is just rough it up with a little bit of fine emery, and then I'm going to put some filler on this whole thing, sand it down and paint it so it looks nice and also conceals the interior of the model. The lid on this body filler was jammed on. I had to use pliers, as you see, to get it off. This is very gooey stuff. It's glazing and spot putty. I haven't really used it much. It's a professional automotive product, I believe. So I'm using a lolly stick there, or you could call it a paint stirrer, I suppose, a spatula. I don't know, it's one of those thin wooden sticks. And I've got that much stuff of I've got that much of this, and I've got so much of this stuff that I figure I can use it as much as I want, so I spread it all over the windscreen. All sides, front, back and sides. I'm hoping I'm going to sand it down and make this look ultra smooth and then paint it. Okay, so I set that aside and now I concentrate on the second base, the second model. For this one I glued it together with some Starbond black medium thick super glue. I did it both on the underside and then I left it for 24 hours and then I did it on the top side. This is the Araldite one that I did before. It's very solid, but I wanted to reinforce it, so on the upper side I'm just doing the same thing again. I'm scoring it with the dental pick and I'm going to run in there, I'm going to run in that channel there a little bead of Araldite on the end of this toothpick just to reinforce it that little bit more. It would have been nice if I could have made this a temporary custom and that the next owner could have returned it back to its original form with the Looney Tunes figures. However, I've realised at this stage that's not going to happen. This is a permanent conversion, if you will. So here's the two bases, curing, and the two types of glue that I used. The next day I have a look. The rear end, the super glue's gone a little bit milky. Overall it's solid. Again, I'm reinforcing the upper side here using some more of the Starbond black medium thick super glue. And eventually I get to a place where I think I'm happy with that. So with the bases almost 100% complete, I now concentrate back onto the windscreen. I'm using some 800 grit fine emery paper to sand down that body filler. I want it as good as possible. There's a few imperfections there. That's why you sand it. So I'm going to redo this and wait another 24 hours. This video, by the way, has taken me over a week, I think, to do, with other commitments handicapping me on the way. I have been unable to dedicate myself to this 100%. That's why it's taken so long, so I apologise if you've been hanging out for this, but I hope it was worth the wait. Alright, bases have been done. Now the bodies have to be resprayed, rebranded, and made to look good for the Scalextric race that will take place soon between me and Kevin. We've each agreed that we will race each other to try and make up for the last race which I lost. Maybe I can redeem myself. What Kevin doesn't know is that I had one of these race sets when I was a child, so I think I have an advantage. The yellow paint didn't go on particularly well, and in all honesty, I repainted it 6 times. I was a mess. Even this windscreen gave me grief with that kind of imperfection there on the side. After I sprayed it, I had to rub it down and do it again. More putty, more rubbing, another day gone. I suppose good things are worth waiting for. But it is frustrating, I must admit. So after a third or maybe a fourth application of the Dynatron glazing and spot putty, I got to a safe place where I wanted to be, and I felt that I could go on to the next stage. Here I'm showing the 800 grit paper that I used, and it's quite good with this body filler product. Makes it very nice smooth. After I filled it, I painted it silver with a silver pressure pack. And my idea is I'm now going to coat this with clear blue to try and make it look like a tinted windscreen. Here's the silver I used, just a pressure pack from the $2 shop, and this is the Mr. Hobby Clear Blue. And I must admit, I'm more than happy with the results. It's got a kind of a satin metallic blue look about it. So I designed and printed off some decals for the model, and I've clear coated them so that the ink doesn't bleed when I immerse them in water. And this is another day gone by, and I'm now going to check these out. Now, in my mind, I was convinced that I'd printed one set on white backed decal paper and one set on clear backed decal paper. The red decals are going to go on the white model, the blue decals are going to go on the yellow model. Before I can do that, I glue the windscreen back in using some araldite and a nut to hold it down. I do a test fit of some of the decals there. I think they're the right scale. I just winged it as I went, and I think I pretty much got it as I wanted it. And this was extremely time consuming, almost 2 days to cut all these little decals out and stick them on. And it's only now that I can see light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm thinking, oh, I so hope people enjoy this video, because there's been a lot of effort gone into this. So here's a final picture of with the new paint scheme and decals on, and I think they look awesome. So I'll just recap. This is what I started with, the Alitalia Fiat Abarth racing car. And this is what it looks like now. The reason it's propped up at the front is because there is a tab at the bottom there that sits in the Scalextric track to prevent the model from flying off on the bends. Looks a bit odd, but hopefully you can get to see this and think, oh, that looks quite nice, because I am very, very pleased with the result of this one. It's got MMM Racing custom decals on there. Sponsored by Starbond. Well, I'd stick those on there just because they sent me the glue. The Group C racer here has been transformed from red to white. New decals. Sponsored by SO Mobile. Not really, I wish. But I just wanted to trick it up a bit. This is going to be Kevin's car. You can see his name on the side there. Now, somebody told me number 88 is a famous NASCAR driver. I didn't know. I just scrolled through Google looking for racing style stickers and grabbed these because I wanted red ones. And no doubt some of you are going to tell me who those 88 decals belong to, what racing driver. I don't follow NASCAR, so I don't know. Anyway, I do like the end product. These two cars look magnificent. They're awesome little models. I actually think I prefer the yellow one because it's less fussy, and I do like the detail on the front end. Tell me in the comments which one is your favourite. Here's a picture of the undersides of the two vehicles, and I think they look quite good, quite professional and very neat. So again, I'm happy with that. Okay, now it's time for the final race. This is the cup that me and Kevin are racing for today. This is Kevin's car, so I'm going to set him up on the grid. This is my car. I'm going to set them up exactly the same on the front end there. There's Kevin's pit crew there discussing their team tactics. And now it is time to race. Fingers crossed. 3, 2, 1, go! Oh, it's neck and neck. Anyone's race at this moment. I think I've got the upper hand. may not look like it, but I'm a half a lap in front. Kevin's starting to sweat. I think I've got this one in the bag. Oh, what? Hang on, I've lost power. Oh, what's going on? My car's malfunctioning. That is not good. How come? I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. If you have, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. I do love to read your comments. And for your information, this particular Scalextric set is now going to go on eBay, and I'm going to auction it off. In the next couple of days I will be listing this on eBay, and I shall be leaving a link in the description. If you look up Marty's Matchbox Makeovers on eBay, you should find it. And if you do, well, happy bidding, and I hope you win. Do I really want to spray it again?